Welcome to Making Room. Today I am speaking with Amber Knight. Amber is a veteran in the business process improvement business. She has worked with organizations, including law firms, but across various different business sectors, helping them to improve their processes. And today we're going to talk a little bit about her experience because she does have a background in legal process improvement, but we're going to talk about her background in general and how it might apply in a legal technology context. So, Amber, so glad to have you here today.
Thanks for having me.
Where do you see the application of business process improvement in a law firm?
Well, Khrys, improvements really can be found practically anywhere. Often these improvements are financially driven, but by streamlining a process, you're eliminating waste. And that waste is generally found in those extra steps. So usually those extra steps cost money. Those can be in the form of penalties and interest, and of course, headcount. Indirect savings could be a way of adding value to a process by shortening the length of time it takes to complete it. So when I'm thinking of a law firm, an example could be in accounts payable. So the first step when we're conducting a business process improvement initiative is to look at the as-is process. And we want to document that workflow. And a great way to do that would be using something like Visio. This gives us a picture of what is currently happening today and all those steps. Sometimes when we get that pictorial view of that process, we have an obvious step that we see that can be eliminated. Another possible area that could be looked at would be the HR recruiting process. So you want to start with, asking some business questions. How and where are those jobs posted? What is the average number of applicants for that specific role? How many interviews are conducted prior to making the selection of your candidate? An important aspect here is the voice of the customer. In this case, HR has two customers. One would be the hiring manager, and the other one, of course, is the candidate. So in order for us to improve the process, we need to know where we are, where we stand today. And in order to understand that, in addition to documenting the process, we need to be able to measure that process in order to show that we've got improvement later. So in a nutshell there, if we don't measure what we're doing today, we'll never know if we've improved something. Just as a last thing to say here, once a process has been improved, I highly recommend a scheduled review of that process. This could be every 6 months, every year, whatever is appropriate for that particular process. It's really important for an organization to adopt a culture of continuous improvement.
Yeah, it's very important for us as professionals to adopt that same mindset, to develop a process of continuous improvement in our careers. I do a course for IT professionals that helps them to sort of see where they are today and where they want to go with their careers. It's called Igniting Your Career Pheromones. And in that course, one of the first things we do is assess what is your career doing for you today? What are you getting out of it? What do you want to get out of it? And what you want to get out of it is sort of the trajectory for their career, and we map out a course to get there. But then because our careers change over time, you want one thing out of your career before you have a family. You want something different out of your career after you have a family, or after you've married and have a significant other in your life. And then, you get further down the road and you maybe want something out of your career that maybe prepares you for moving into another business sector that you find more lucrative or more interesting, or that gives you access to new technologies. And so that check-in is really important, not just for legal, not just for technology-based organizations, but for any organization and for us as individuals. I can see that you probably get some really interesting projects across all kinds of business sectors, providing that sort of service for your clients. What is the process for continued process improvement when you're applying this exercise for use in selecting, say, a technology product?
So there are several tools and methods that you can utilize when selecting technology. There's a solution selection matrix you would potentially use. There's, you'd want to definitely interview the folks that are impacted by this new technology to understand how they would use it, what their needs are. And, as a side note here, you want to also understand their appetite for change, which is a whole nother topic of, organizational change management. But ultimately, I don't believe that you need to look at technology for the sake of changing technology because it's the latest and greatest new shiny object out there. I think it's really important that technology needs to align with the business needs first and foremost. So by looking at a business process and understanding what those business needs are, then we can understand what is the most appropriate technology that needs to be applied to that process itself. So it could be that you do need to, add a new technology to help streamline the process. But that's not always, the case. So I think it's really asking the why beforehand. So, what is the benefit? What is the gain? What is the risk? What is the cost? And so I think that you kind of have to take a step back and look at it from a business perspective versus a, IT perspective.
I like that. Focusing on solving a business problem, not necessarily just grabbing a new technology because there's something else out there or because it is the latest widget that everybody else is buying, but really focusing on what your business is trying to accomplish and selecting solutions for that business, be it technology or process, right?
Exactly.
So just on a fun note, tell me about a fun challenge that you've had in maybe legal technology or in a law firm environment.
Well, Khrys, I knew that you were going to ask me that question, so I brought along a little friend to share. Meet the Y2K bug. 20 years ago this week, those of us in technology, in my case, I was managing a development team at a law firm, and the challenge was to make sure that everything worked on, the year 2000, January 1st. And so Y2K wound up being pretty much a dud, but we went through every single line of code, all the data, making sure we had to change everything to 4-year dates and that whole entire exercise that I'm sure that lots of folks are very familiar with. And of course, it went off without a hitch. And but I've had my little Y2K bug there for literally 20 years. And now we have a new challenge with a COVID bug, which is a little bit different. And anyway, I hope that, 2020 21 is going to be a prosperous and much more quote unquote normal year than 2020 was.
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. Yeah, hopefully we will find that we have handled this particular change very well. And there have been some new processes that have come into play because of having to deal with our pandemic, right?
Exactly.
So many organizations are working remotely that were not before, and that has presented some interesting challenges. Well, Amber, I would love to have you come back again and talk to us maybe about change culture, which is sort of what happens on the back end of an organization working with you on their process improvement. And I want to thank you for spending some time with us today.
Thank you.